I would not trade being a walker my first summer. However, does not exclude the fact that it was extremely hard, just because if it rains, it rains. We were doing paper maps in 2016.
Who do we have here today?
I'm Karinne Hauser. I am a junior at Hillsdale College in Michigan. I'm a sociology and social thought major with a French minor, and I'm going on my 5th year with Southwestern. I do different honoraries in terms of college. I do a different honoraries, and I do volunteer, a couple different volunteer programs within the college and my major. And then and then I do Southwestern things on campus.
Cool. So how did you first learn about the program?
I filled out a work survey in my pre-calc class senior year of high school when I was attending the University of Minnesota Duluth. Jake Osowski surveyed my class, filled out a survey, went to an info. It actually took me 3 tries to actually get to the info with volleyball and track that I was doing. And then I went through a process. I actually went through the process very quickly. So it was 2 days back to back. And then I got selected and did my first summer following graduation from high school.
Cool. And then tell us a little bit about your first summer.
So I think we went out, honest. I think the org was, the size of our organization was probably 20 people, so 13 to 20 people, I want to say, and I went out with them. I did sales school with them. We knocked for our HQs, actually, and then there were a couple that were set up and then had not been able to follow through. So we're finding those HQs. I went back for a month after sales school, so I sold 1 day. Then I went back and I did my state track tournament, and then I did national volleyball in Florida and flew straight from Florida at the end of that month to my summer in West Virginia. I was a walker. I did not have a car, so I was gonna have a little bit of a shorter summer. I had about an 8-week summer, and I was on foot in Charleston, West Virginia. When I got there, I think of the 16 or so people, more than half had quit. So there were only 4 of us, I think, left by the time I got out. It was week 6 for everybody else by the time I was out there, which was hard because I had to transition, and my first week was everybody's midpoint. And also I didn't know if I had joined a cult because everybody had quit. So turns out it was okay. So I lived with one host family for a little bit, and then honestly, it was 3 weeks, I think. Then I moved to an alumni host family in Ohio, and then that was for about 3 weeks, and then I moved to an apartment of an alumni down in another place in Ohio, and sold in another turf. So I had about 3 turfs, 3 HQs, and I don't know, maybe 10 roommates in the 8 weeks. And then so I just finished my last couple weeks in that 3rd HQ, which was an apartment with a bunch of kids from all over, all different organizations. Okay,
so walk us through some of the things you learned, some of the challenges about being a walker. What was that like?
It's kind of like the benefits and the challenges in Southwestern. Benefits and challenges of being a walker are they kind of reflect each other. So one of the really hard things is that you don't have an outlet, I guess, emotionally. You can't go to your car. Your car is not like a haven because you don't have one. So unless you want to go, I would say, cry in a bush. Then there isn't a lot that you're going to do necessarily, except go to the next door, which is really, really good. I think it's an invaluable experience, and I would not trade anything. I would not trade being a walker my first summer. However, does not exclude the fact that it was extremely hard, just because if it rains, it rains. We were doing paper maps in 2016, so maps were going to be muddy, and I didn't even know how I was supposed to be drawing my maps. But besides that, it's if you don't have a raincoat and you forgot your raincoat or you forgot your lunch, those things, you problem solve those things to the max. So in the end, to look back and say, I'm a better problem solver because I honestly ran into problems that, like, every day that people would only run into maybe a couple times their first summer if they had a car, because they could keep everything in their car. That, yeah, at the end, it made me a better problem solver, but in the moment, I was thinking words that probably weren't that great to say. So, I mean, that wasn't fun at all. And then I remember one of the biggest things at the end of that summer, I'll never forget, because I was like, this short summer, but it didn't matter because I said I was going to do it. I did it. At the end of the time, looking at myself was like, I had never experienced confidence like that. I felt like I had built my resume. I was a pretty confident person, but knowing it literally meant something way different for someone to say you can do anything that you want to do. That was like extremely real. I was like, yeah, I actually could. I could do anything that I want to after that first summer because of those things. So.
Okay, cool. And this is gonna be kind of a weird question, but so you mentioned that like when you came back, right, from like the whole month of being away, like almost like half of your organization had quit, right? Like, why do you think that was?
I think about that. I thought about it a lot more at the time, but that's a good question because I think it still like crosses my mind from time to time. I think honestly it's a combination of things. We had a couple different leaders that had first years on that team. And I don't think I might be wrong on this, so don't quote me, but I think there were a couple different leaders that had people on that team that weren't, actually the leaders weren't selling with us. So there was also not, one of the things the student leaders, like on the management side of it, and knowing this, like looking back, it was like, I don't think there was a very strong manager base, so there were just lots of people bringing their teams together, which one thing we do now that every team that I've been a part of since I've come back has been a lot of team building and a lot of conviction building on the management side of it, where if you're going to come back as a student leader, this is your deal. And I just think that was like, is a lot more cohesive than it was that summer. That's the management side. The other side was that there were a lot of these kids that I don't know if I guess this could go to the management side. Maybe they just hadn't been solidified and didn't prepare. I know one thing for me that was hard but didn't make me quit, where I think maybe some other kids did quit, was I was told that it was really hard, and I felt like I just took that like as it was. Like I just said like, okay, so like it's gonna be hard, and I didn't really prepare for what that was, even though like I mentioned Jake Osowski is my manager. It was like that he prepared me and he would go over all the things that were gonna be hard, and I just didn't. I was just like, okay, yeah, hard. And it just was this word that I think you push aside very easily as a first year because you haven't gone through it, and you can only prepare them so much as a manager. Whereas I think that literally it was the first 3 weeks for a lot of the kids, the girls that I was gonna room with, where it was like they ran into those things right away, and it was like, this is too hard. And that was literally what we were told it was gonna be, but we weren't mentally prepared. And that's a thing that the first year has to do.
Cool, awesome. And then talk us through like why you decided to come back, after the whole amazingness of your first summer. What keeps you coming back?
Yeah, so my first summer to my second summer, I think I even said this in a meeting at going into my second summer, that I had to prove to myself that wasn't just a weird dream. I was like, that is so weird that I just did that, because this is your first time. It was my first time doing all of that, and I think most people do their first summer. It's like, this is such a weird job. And that it is, and it's great for that reason, and it's also why you learn as much as you do. And there was one thing though, the pushing factor, for lack of a better term, of doing my first summer was, there's no way I'm gonna do this, and even if I don't make as much money as I want to, there's no way I'm not gonna learn more than I ever have about myself. And I'm very interested in that, and I very much value becoming self-aware and knowing how you interact in your weaknesses. If you cannot experience yourself in the state of dejection and in the state of sadness and in the state of like anger, and you don't know how to deal with like, can I deal with angry Karinne, and do I know how she acts, and can I make her better? Does that make sense? So that was like if I can't do that, then I need to work on myself. That's kind of the pushing factor into my first summer, and I definitely got that out of my first summer. So there was not really, it was kind of like I needed to come back. I didn't want to come back for my second summer because it was hard, but I also knew that I should. And it was hard to say that I was going to, and it was hard after my second summer to say that I was going to. And then after that, going into my third summer, it was always, I should. And eventually it was just like, okay, you should, and you know that you learn a lot, and you actually learn how to have fun. So why, it was this mental block that I put up for myself that I didn't need to fight against. And it's still gonna be hard, but you've learned, this is kind of like my third summer self talking to me. It was like, you've learned how to have fun, so you don't have to waffle and sit on the fence anymore. So it was just like leaping in at that point, and I loved it because I knew I loved it. It was just this holding on to kind of like a skepticism that I had for the 2 years that I was with them at the beginning.
Okay, cool. And then walk us through just the growth that you've had, like professionally and mostly professionally, like after your first summer, like onto your second, third.
In other avenues, like
yeah,
with job and stuff. Yeah, I was just talking to a friend actually recently that I was thinking about how I have always been capable in a sense. Like I've always been able to find a way, which is a great Southwestern value and a great life value, but you don't have to just find a way and be on like flying by the seat of your pants. You can also plan, be responsible. These are just crazy concepts, you know, that I would learn through the last couple summers, where I think it is definitely a personality thing that just a place of growth that I could develop. But it very much was able to develop over these last few years of having to be in a position of leadership. And it's not about you, it's not about your first summer, it is about you, and all managers are there so that you can have a good experience. But when you come back, you get to make sure that other people have that good experience. That means you need to be able to be prepared, and you have to be able to be service-minded and care about the families during the day and the first years during the night, and then also learn how to self-care in that. So like balancing all that was fantastic. So I think that I have to go back to confidence, because I think that is a huge thing that helps me in like any interview, in any interaction. If I want a job, if I want it bad enough, I'm gonna get it, and I just feel very confident in that. And I mean that not because they're going to hire me as I am necessarily. If I need to build my resume and I really want that job, then I'm gonna build my resume so that it looks that way. And so that confidence comes from the fact of, yes, you may not know how to do this perfectly, you may not know how to get this job right now, but you can figure it out.
Cool. And then I don't think you actually told us this, but like, what's your dream job, and how does this fit into your dream job?
Yeah, my dream job is counseling, life coach, and fitness coach. So I would like to integrate all of them. I see myself as a mom, and one of the things that's very important to me is being able to do both. So if I need to stay at home, and it's going to be what's best for my kids is to stay at home with them for any period of time, then I need to be capable, and able to be positive and enjoy that, learn how to enjoy that situation, because that's not something I see myself necessarily doing. However, I also need to be able to support myself and be independent. And this, wherever a spouse or a partner factors in, both of us, I just believe that like both of us need to be able to do both, and so that we can be flexible, and there doesn't have to be tension built around our incapabilities, if that makes sense. So my dream job professionally would be taking being a mom, and then taking the career of counseling with kids, teens, and helping them. That stage is so important of, you don't have a lot of confidence, you're coming out of middle school though, you're being aware and just learning how to have confidence in yourself, and why are you intrinsically valuable as a human, putting that into kids, and being able to have that in practice. And like, if you practice that, that's why kind of it's the very cool thing about my major, sociology, In Hillsdale, the school that I go to, it's like they are practicing things that are life skills and life values, and then money can be made off of those things, but it doesn't mean you sacrifice your authenticity or anything like that. It's just it's the same thing as Southwestern. It helps you practice values, and there's also money being made. So I also would integrate, like I said, fitness coaching into that, and like a life coach more so than like counseling for you know, kids in tough situations. I would say more the life coach, people who are trying to improve on life. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Cool. Anything else you want to share? Actually, this is a great question. I asked Ian this. So we talk a lot about like how this internship just isn't for everyone, you know, and we get that. And so do you want to talk a little bit more about like what like students who like, I don't know, the type of student who will do well in this program versus the students who might not do well in this program? Be as brutally honest as you want.
Yeah. I feel like over the last couple of years, I have definitely transitioned into being more on the side of believing in all types of people, in the sense that I am 100% convinced that if anybody wants to do this, bar any like health or extraneous weird reasons that would keep them from doing it, if they really want to do it, you can do it, because I really strongly believe in this intrinsic value of like a human being, right? So it's like, that being said, people that have the traits, I stand by the things of, you need to have a work ethic, you need to know what that means to yourself, and also if you were to be stretched beyond that, what you think is a good work ethic, how would you react? You need to be thinking about those kinds of things. Be able to look beyond. I think perspective is like one of the most important things, because you're gonna fall flat even if you finish the summer because you're just a workhorse and you said you were going to, which I think honestly I was a good example of that my first summer. Even if you're gonna fall flat and just like kind of coast or just not do as well as you wanted, the long-term perspective of why you're even there when you go through hardship is what I think makes people do well, and or helps people do well, and also just helps them get through the summer if in the first place. So it's like, even if you didn't think you were gonna make it through, if you have perspective of why you're actually there, this emotional reasons, like they're important. So perspective, I think, would be the number one thing. And then I do like knowing why the values of Southwestern are there. So why we say things like work ethic, why we say things like coachability. You can't just, I think it's very important for people to actually have the trait of like introspection, if you want to call it, like self-reflectiveness of why is this important? Why are they saying these things? And why is it like, it has this credibility, that's great, but what does like coachability mean? Does that mean I could actually trust the company and the manager and myself to actually do what I said I was going to do, and also like things that don't necessarily make sense? Can I go ahead with that, and why am I convicted in doing that? So I feel like, yeah, I would stick with those traits, but I think there's a level of like introspection that goes along with that is important, that I always push like the kids on my team, or the kids that I'm interviewing, or the kids that I even talk to in the interview process, to like think about like, what have you done? Why do you have confidence? What have you done in your life? Why do you have confidence that you could do it? And if you don't, that doesn't mean you can't do it, but why would you want to, you know?
Cool. Last question. As far as your parents go,
yeah,
what'd they think about it? Like before the summer, after your first summer? How are they think of it now?
Yeah, they were not for it. My parents were actually, I should say my mom was very against it, and still is on a cycle. So I'll get back to that. My dad was very much for the work ethic. My dad was like, oh, that sounds like a lot of hard work. And so that was good. I think one thing my parents really did do for me was they trusted my ability to make a decision, which was not even, I guess I didn't even realize that until I did my first summer. They didn't trust that it was the right decision, and I felt that skepticism, but they did trust me to make a decision, which was very important. My mom was not at all for it. Safety, money, you're not going to be here, it's your senior year. It was just, there was a lot of reasons why, and the same reasons that I was thinking too. So it was kind of a confirmed voice in my head or a confirmed voice that confirmed the voice in my head. And it was it was not until after the summer where I would come home and I had all this passion. It was like I was passionate about going into it, I was passionate after it, I was passionate every year since about the things that I learned. And she saw that. She was very happy for me, and she would see the checks like as they went up. It was like $6,500 for the first 8-week summer, then it was $13,000, then it was $29,000, and it was like she would get happy for me. I'm paying for college myself. It was just like, yes, you're very independent. But then every year around sales school, she'll be like, I don't think you should be doing something. I don't think you should be doing this, or you should be moving on. And I think they're just using you, honestly, because it's this pyramid scheme idea that I had in my head for the first 2 summers. And so for a long time, I just let that confirm and keep my skepticism there. But in the end, I am not trying to be my mom. I'm trying to be, I have a path that I want to achieve. I have goals that I want to achieve. I have a path that I want to follow. And there are people that have achieved goals that I want to achieve as well. And they have done the things like Southwestern and made kind of those types of decisions that's the way I want to go. So I had to align myself with the path of thinking, if that makes sense too, of where I wanted to go. And it wasn't, there are going to be a lot of people in life that don't support your decisions, but are they where you want to be? I think that was important.